This episode is brought to you by North Texas Honda Dealers. North Texas Honda Dealers, they're here to help.
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
The throw goes to the right side for Crabtree. It's caught. He he's going down, Red Raiders!
What's he up the 10? What's he up the right sideline? Youngie's got to go. He's tackled. Sam Houston wins it. The Bearcats capture their first FCS championship.
Hello, welcome to the Republic of Football. I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson, the college editor here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
You didn't turn the TV on.
I didn't turn the TV on.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, we don't have the logo. Hold on, let me see if I can turn it on right now as I
Dude,
finish.
I told you beforehand to turn that on.
Hold
Why
on,
do
what-
I have to run everything?
Hold on.
You're
Let
the
me-
host.
Let me.
Look,
Take
in
the
Ish's
behind the
defense,
scenes.
every time we look down on our phone, there is some new transfer news happening. Texas and Oklahoma just announced they're
Carter,
going to stay
I
at the
told
Cotton
him
Bowl.
like 5 minutes ago.
Thank you, Carter.
5
no,
minutes
listen,
ago.
Listen to Carter.
No, never.
It's some complicated.
Well, I also did my classic walk-in 2 minutes before start
Yeah,
time.
I know you did.
I'm a gamer.
It makes my job so much harder because I have to
Yeah.
set these cameras up
There we go. Hold
and
on.
make sure that you guys
on.
look okay,
Okay, well,
There
it
we
wasn't,
and
go.
sound okay.
it wasn't
Hold
2
on,
minutes. It was
hold
about
on.
5 minutes.
Jesus.
It must have been right after you told Ish for the 5th time
Yeah.
to turn this camera on.
Thank
First of all,
you.
she told me
you.
once. Second of all,
I think I told you like twice.
she
at
told me like
least.
once. I picked up the remote and then moved it over here and then forgot about it. So I forgot to change the channel. So as I get the logo, there we go. Look at that. See, that's easy. Thank you, Mallory.
You make my job so much harder.
Anyway, whatever. How do I get this to go large again? I forgot. Oh, there we go.
Just leave it.
No.
There we go. We're back.
For our audio listeners, they're like, "What is happening?" Okay. Hi. I'm Ishmael Johnson, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, the college editor here. This will be our last show before we head off to state next week. For those that are familiar, we do high school, a lot of high school here, and we are going to be all at AT&T next week. So yeah, here with Carter Yates. What's up, man?
Baby's first date coming up.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, then Mallory, hello. It's your
Hi.
third. Yeah,
Because I was an intern in 2020, so I came to help.
Yes,
and
and
then
then 20 and
2021.
20,
No, this would be my fourth. 2020, 2021,
Yeah,
2022.
wow.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, fourth already.
Fourth state
That's
with
crazy.
you guys.
Yeah, it's a lot.
nuts.
So we'll still have some college stuff on here. Obviously, there'll be some news dropping, coaching news. We'll get into portal news as well. We'll get into some coaching news actually. There's some stuff coming out. But as far as like heavy content, it's gonna be a lot of high school. So features, stories. Sunday basically is when we launch our state hub. For those of you that are unfamiliar, and we have something for everybody, right? If you're a high school fan, we'll have previews of all the games. If you're a college fan, Greg Powers and myself and Will Wilkerson usually do player breakdowns. Greg Powers does recruits to watch, so you'll be taken care of no matter what you prefer. So yeah, this will be the last show before we head into all that. But we do got some news because, of course, the transfer portal is open. And that's part of the problem with the transfer portal is that it is open right now. And that is a calendar that is out of whack. And we'll start off with that. We'll get into some light coaching news. A&M made a hire. That's kind of the only. I mean, UTEP obviously made a head coaching hire since the last time we were on. But let's get into some portal news. Speaking of A&M, they've also been impacted by this. Almost their entire defensive line except for David Hicks is gone. That's not true, but like a Walter Nolan, Overton, LT Overton,
Fadil Diggs.
As of right now, those are the only ones. But the team that's probably hit hardest, pound for pound in the state, it's probably North Texas right now. Yeah. Chandler Rogers is the latest, and he's definitely the most impactful player that they've lost. But in addition to him, Ayo, their 1,000-yard rusher, who's been there for 2 or 3 years now. Isaiah Johnson, another contributing running back, and then Jamori Macklin, their 1,000-yard wide receiver. They had a stat that they threw up saying their final game saying, "Oh, look, a 3,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher, and a 1,000-yard receiver. Wouldn't you want to play in this offense?"
And they're gone.
And turns out they don't want to play in this offense, so they're all gone. So Carter, me and you disagree I don't think we're very like.
I don't think we're that far
drastic.
off.
I was about to say, I don't think we're very much like completely on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think we disagree on certain details. I'm under the impression that I think that the thing that needs to change is the structure of the way the transfer portal is. Now, let me get into why we had this discussion. Because a lot of UNT fans, I think, not irrationally, are having a discussion of what's the point. Right.
Big time. What's the point energy coming from Mean Green Twitter right now?
Right. It's like you have this new coach comes in, makes things work with this offense. New quarterback kind of turns a new gear for this receiver that's been there, running back who's been successful but hits another level for him as well. They're all gone, and so it kind of turns into a lot of fans. And again, I had a tongue-in-cheek comment about it because it was like I've been a fan of a Group of Fives program that went 10 years without a bowl, and never did we ever go like, what's the point? It's kind of the point of being a G5 program, unfortunately, is those ups and downs. But in the new era of the transfer portal, it kind of is a new water to navigate, where you have the not a successful season, but like you develop these players, and then if somebody wants them, they can tamper, which everybody's doing. Everybody's tampering. We'll talk about Trey more in a bit with UTSA. And then all of a sudden they're gone, right? Or they have the option to leave in some cases. And my thing is, I think that the only thing that really needs to drastically change is the calendar. And this is where we disagree, because I don't mind the fact that Chandler Rogers is able to transfer. Jamori Macklin was able to transfer to UNT. Chandler, all three of these guys, I think, except Ayodeyi.
The problem is North Texas has had these guys transfer into their program originally. Now they're going out of the program.
Right.
So they have benefited and then also detracted as well.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So they've benefited from the portal. If you're a ULM fan listening to this, you're like, cry me a river, right? Because he's the reason why Chandler Rogers they're the reason why Chandler Rogers is there in the first place. So they've experienced both sides of it. My running thought on the portal is that I think that it's needed to have a better calendar, because right now guys are recruiting. They're trying to finish up signing day, right, which is coming up a week after state on the 20th of December. And they're also now trying to recruit their own guys. They're trying to stop their guys from getting in the portal. They're also having to now keep an eye on the portal to be like, okay, who's available if we miss out on people in signing day, things like that. So it just changes kind of your overall – it gives you way too many things to pay attention to at once, in my opinion. And so I think that – I'm not saying this solves it, but I do think that a calendar saying like, okay, transfer portal is not going to open before the bowl games, because all of a sudden the bowl games become – I mean, they already were exhibitions, but they really do become exhibitions at that point, because everybody announces their intentions before the bowl games.
The calendar's out of whack. I totally agree with you. I think where we got a little bit lost in textlation yesterday, which I'm glad we're having this talk face-to-face now, is your take on it was a little bit of cry me a river, like this has happened. This is what happens when you're a G5 team.
Yes.
And I understand that, but on my end, I was also like, can you not see where North Texas fans are like, this kind of sucks?
Oh, I can. Absolutely. 100% I can see where that happens. What I would say is that I think I use the analogy of that's how coaching already works, right?
Yes.
And that's where it's like, I'm a Tech State fan and Tech State grad. GJ Kinney's there right now. Immediately after they won their 6th game, everybody was like, oh, it's not going to be there long. It's like, yeah, it sucks, but it's like, it's true. Like, he's not going to be there long.
I think a lot of where I'm getting confused in this now is some of my transfer scenarios that I would like to fix are a lot because of COVID, right?
Sure, yes,
so
yes,
I was proposing in our Slack basically the get a job rule, where it's you can transfer one time without penalty in your 4 years, but then if you transfer one time and play instantly, you can't then grad transfer. Or you go 4 years at one school and then you can grad transfer without penalty. What we're seeing right now is players are transferring one time in undergrad, then they do a degree in 3 years, then they do a master's program, which means they can grad transfer now instantly. We got guys like Dylan Gabriel who have hopped from UCF to Oklahoma to now probably Oregon or USC. We've got Jamori Macklin that has gone Missouri to North Texas, now back to Power 5.
Right.
And we've got Chandler Rogers went ULM, UNT, and then wherever he's going to go in the Power 5.
Right.
And the problem is I don't think I'm anti-player and saying that's too much, because now we have high school guys coming in who aren't going to get these opportunities.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I will say is, look, you go Power 5, you transfer back to G5 to get more playing time. That's great. But then I'm almost saying, as a 23-year-old man, I don't know if you should get to go back in Power 5 and then capitalize on the bag without saying either go take your degree and get your job and let another guy come in, or test your waters in the NFL.
Well, so my thing is, I look at somebody like, so I agree. This is my only boomer take on this, is that specifically for quarterbacks, I think it's skewed because it seems like nobody wants to develop a quarterback anymore, right? Like, it seems like that's the single position that's really like, oh, we're just going to go portal, right? Nobody's starting a true, I mean, there are some programs, but like it's more unheard of to have true freshman quarterbacks starting, because if you're, I'm trying to think of Tennessee. So Tennessee has Nico, I can't say his last name, but reportedly threw a bag at him right out of high school. I think he was like the second quarterback in his class. 5-star quarterback. He's probably not going to play next year because they're going to portal somebody. Malachi Nelson at USC, number 1 quarterback in his class. Probably not going to play next year because they're going to get maybe Dylan Gabriel or whoever.
Dante Moore did play, now in the portal.
Right. And so so that's the only one that I'm like, and I think that because quarterback is the only one, to me, not the only position, but like to me, quarterback is the most high profile position that teams have just not given up on, but it really taken a hit in terms of development, in-house development, in my opinion. I think that receiver, because there are more receivers that touch the field, things like that, I think like a Devin McEwen for UTSA, right? There will be more freshmen touching the field. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think that quarterback's the single position that's like, oh, we're not going to play this guy because we have this guy coming in instead. So that's my only like boomer take on it, is that yes, I'm very much get a job for quarterbacks.
Yeah, my boomer take is Casey Thompson has now got a 7th year of eligibility, and an incoming class of 2024 freshman was in 7th grade when Casey Thompson was a freshman at college.
Yes.
Tyler Shuck.
We made the Alan Bowman joke as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was playing football when Tyler Shuck was a freshman at Oregon, and he's still playing college football. I am now a graduated grown-ass man.
Well, here's where I completely contradict myself in saying that I don't know how many of those guys are going to play in the NFL. So I also think they should just
make money. Exactly.
Right? But like so like again, I'm conflicted because part of me is like, yes, go get a job, you 26-year-old, right? But also part of me is like, especially in this one, let's take it back from the extreme cases, because those will die away once COVID stops. Or the COVID eligibility stops. Let's take a Chandler Rogers, right? I know he's technically also a COVID, but he's more fringe case. He's not probably going to the NFL, right? Okay. And so this would be his last chance to cash in on his name, right? If somebody throws, I'm just throwing out what's the Brock Heward example of Brock Heward threw out the example of the rumor of Cam Ward having $1 million offers, right? Let's half that, right? He's not a Power 5 starting quarterback, so Chandler Rogers gets $500K or even like $100K, something, I don't know, 6 figures. That's his last chance to probably make make money on his name as a quarterback. Chandler Rogers, right? He might have a shot in the Canadian Football League. Probably. We've seen guys like Mason Fine go to the Canadian Football League. But like as far as like that one payout, it's his last shot. And so that's where I can't blame them, right? A guy like Tyler Shuck, who has dreams of the NFL, probably not at this point, injury prone, all this stuff. Like if Louisville, right? He committed to Louisville. If Louisville threw a bag, said, hey, come play. We know Braum did a good job with the offense this year. Come play, put up your numbers, see if you can boost whatever. If there's any type of pro stock, whether it's, again, NFL, CFL, XFL, whatever, come here, make money, and do it.
Yeah, but also in that case, like, he's so injury prone.
No,
why do you want to, like a JT Daniels, like, why do you want to keep transferring? I get you want the money, but, like, at that point, dude,
hold on.
You keep getting hurt.
I will never blame Tyler Shuck or Chandler Rogers for doing what they're doing. They should go get their bag. I'm saying the system has made it to where these now 18-year-olds who could be going D1 are going D2, FCS, D3 because we got 24-year-old men playing college football right now.
Sure. No, man, I get that. And I think that, again.
Is that so bad, though? I mean, that kind of helps the parity a little bit.
I was about to say, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's something that will regulate itself. Yeah. Right? I think that's something that, because we are seeing, for the first time this year, I will say, we kind of saw the horror stories a little bit, right? Jair Shorter didn't get on the field at Auburn. Right, he transferred from UNT.
Zachary Franklin.
He was a little bit of injury, but also just didn't touch the field at all, right, at Ole Miss. Now, you could look at it two ways. You can look at it, say, okay, those guys shouldn't have transferred, or you can look at it and say, those guys got paid. Doesn't matter if they got hurt. They got paid anyway. So, like, I can see it both ways. Alton McCaskill, another way, right? Leaves Houston, goes to Colorado, gets a bag, doesn't really touch the field at all because they don't like to run the ball because it takes the ball out of the coach's son's hands. But he got a bag. And so, like, again, you could look at it two ways where you're saying, well, I'm probably not going to make the NFL. and Ole Miss is calling, offering me $500K. Am I going to get catches? Probably not. But and again, is that a cynical way to look at it and say, well, these kids are just yeah, it's probably a cynical way to look at it. But I'm also like, I don't know, man. If somebody's willing to pay you money like that, it's hard to turn that down if you're 20 to 24 years old.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it has led to all this movement in college football right now where guys are going probably a lower level than they should have been, and that's why they're constantly going up a level as soon as these 24-year-olds leave, and that's what leads to all these G5 fan bases being like, what the hell, we can't develop a team.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
And
I get that. I do. Part of me is just like, I think that's just always been the haves and have-nots of college football. I think it will become a farm system, right? A lot like Tech State will play in their bowl, and then we'll have to see who leaves from this team. Like, it's part of coaching. I think the thing that can really fix it is, in my opinion, the calendar. Just because, like, again, people are like they're trying to recruit, keep kids there, also keep an eye on the portal while preparing for a bowl game. It's just like it's a very bad calendar right now that we have.
Unsustainable for
for
coaches' lives, for work-life balance, which they already don't have, but now they have none. I mean, G.J. Kinney talked about in his press conference today, it never actually dies down, ever.
I was about to say, because then after spring ball, it opens up again, and then they're all till June 1st or something like that. Basically, they can all leave or something like that.
Something like
that. So yeah, it'll be a continuing thing because of course we have head coaching changes, and so A&M obviously will keep an eye on there. Certain hires dictate that. Baylor, whether they like the OC, if they feel like they can play in Spav's offense or not, it all just happens. So we'll keep an eye on that. TextFootball.com, we have our transfer portal tracker as well. We'll have briefs on certain transfers as well. Quick thoughts on A&M's new hired offensive coordinator, Colin Klein from Kansas State.
I like it a lot. I think Colin Klein was a guy who ran a very K-State-centric offense, which I know you're going to disagree with me a little bit here. Like, you didn't like the hire as much as I personally liked it. Right. I think his style of offense can translate to College Station, and I like how him and Mike Elko are both just football guys. It's definitely – it's a newer school than Jimbo Fisher, I would say, who got a little bit caught in the weeds of not being able to adapt. Yeah. But I think it's almost that Midwest mentality.
I think so.
That we're getting in A&M.
The more I've thought about it, the more I've been in favor of it. When his name first came out, I was like, I don't know. Just because, like, he is a good coordinator. Let me specify that. Like, I think Kansas State the past 2 years have had really, really good offenses with players that you wouldn't expect to necessarily be conference contending type of athletes or players. He was also in line for the Notre Dame OC job. I believe that was another one he interviewed for.
He's been a hot commodity.
Penn State was another one. So he is a hot commodity. He's a young coach as well. And so I am curious about what he could do with A&M caliber players, right? So, and the one thing that A&M needs, I think, on offense is just an identity, right? The one thing that they haven't had since Kevin Sumlin left is just like, what do they do on offense? Or what do they do well on offense, right? A lot of it is just like, they just put a lot on the quarterback. It's like, that's not an identity. Like, what does that mean, And with Colin Klein and I think with Mike Elko, we know they're going to be physical. We know they're going to be, like you meant, they're going to be ball coaching dudes, right? I think they will be run-oriented with Colin Klein. That if you watch that Kansas State offense, they want a mobile quarterback. Not necessarily a quarterback who runs, but because Will Howard wasn't the best runner, but like he was able to run. He was mobile. So again, I think that's something to watch. I'm very fascinated to see how the rest of the staff turns out. Elijah Robinson took the defensive coordinator job at Syracuse. We'll get to that in a bit. He will finish out the year as the interim head coach.
My other thought on Colin Klein is I can't wait for his Netflix Untold documentary because he was in that Heisman class with Johnny Manziel and Manti Te'o.
Oh my gosh, he was.
What was it like just doing PR with those guys for like a couple of days?
Untold,
Literally.
Optimus Klein.
That's funny. Good job.
Alrighty, so that's it for us for this part of the show.
Yeah, I was about to say, wait, we done?
Yeah.
Great show, guys. No, that'll do it for our news segments. Of course, TextFootball.com for any other breaking news that'll come out. It's coaching season. It's portal season, so there's bound to be some crazy stuff happening before signing day. By the way, we will have a signing day special. I'm going to plug that right now. We'll have a signing day special on the 20th, so that'll be our first show back after state. We won't be here next week because we'll be in AT&T, but stay tuned. The week after next, for our signing day special. Greg Powers, myself, Mallory. I'm trying to figure out who all will be there.
Carter, probably.
Carter, maybe Tepper as well. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so stay tuned for that as well.
On Wednesday.
Yes. Alrighty, Mallory, let's get into all these bowl games we got.
Shall we start with the entree?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. College
skip the appetizer.
football.
Yeah, skip the appetizer. No
Semi-final
hors d'oeuvres.
Sugar Bowl. Number 3 Texas taking on number 2 Washington. Monday, January 1st at 7:45 p.m. That's literally what it listed the kickoff time as. So
Probably. I mean, these things are so pre-produced. That
I know,
Like,
it's
they would probably put 7:47, and it'd be 7:47.
Right, right. You can watch it on ESPN. Texas coming in as 4-point favorites. The over/under 63.5.
Whew.
It's going to be a high-scoring game, high-flying
Yes,
game.
I do think this will be pointsy in my opinion.
I think that too, but sometimes you get these two high-powered offenses and they just play to a stalemate.
Sure.
In a
Yeah.
defensive
I'll
clash.
I'll say this.
Isn't that what happened with Oregon and Washington like the first time around? It wasn't a very high-scoring
first
game,
time
right?
around, yeah. Second time around, they kind of.
It was pretty high-scoring. It
Yeah.
was the first time they played, yeah.
So I'll say this. I don't want to give this. I don't want to take this point for my own. Richard Johnson on Splits Undua had a great point. You give Steve Sarkisian and Kalen DeBoer a month to prepare for something. We are going to see some stuff.
crazy
in that first quarter, we're going to
play
see some
calling.
stuff.
Yes.
And so
Counterpoint,
Okay.
they had a month to prepare for this last year when they played in the Alamo Bowl.
Sure.
Washington versus Texas.
Sure, that's a good point. That's a really good
And-
point. That's a
Oh
good
my
point.
gosh, I
I
didn't
forgot they played this.
So
yeah.
many guys
about
returning
that.
on this. I don't have the graphic in front of me, but
Yeah.
there's maybe like 8 guys combined who didn't play snaps in that game who were like went off to the NFL or graduated. This is
Right.
the same team as last year from the Alamo Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, this is.
that's-
I'm very excited for this game because you got Michael Penix Jr. versus Quinn Ewers, and I think you also have like, in a way, this matchup to me. Ironically, I think this matchup was the worst for Texas
I think so too.
because you look at the way Michigan plays, and I think that plays into Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. You look at the way Alabama plays. To a lesser extent, Alabama. I think now Alabama plays better against Texas, but I still think we obviously saw how that played out. Where if you get pressure on Jalen Milroe, gets him out of whack and things like that. Washington, they're not going to necessarily be. I mean, they can run the ball. They're not going to be running into the middle of the field a lot. And their wide receivers, they have 2 or 3 NFL caliber wide receivers. That's going to be able to test this cornerback, the secondary.
I was going to say, are they going to get cooked? Is the secondary going to get cooked?
So here's the issue. Here's the big issue. Speaking of transfer portal, so
Jalen Catalon.
Jalen Catalon transferred, announced his transfer, so he will not be playing in this game. He was set to probably start this game because who's the one that's out?
Derek Williams.
Derek Williams got suspended, bad suspension, in the Big 12 title game, so he'll miss the first half of this game. So Texas is going to have to roll with Taff and
Jaron Thompson,
Thompson.
Terrence Brooks, and Ryan Watts has been injured almost all the back half of the season.
Yeah, so you're putting those corners on an island because the safeties behind him are not gonna be the most like I like Michael Taft, but he's not the best coverage guy, and so what I feel like we're gonna see Washington try some stuff early to punch them in the mouth and put them on the back foot. Now, granted, I think that also puts Sark at an advantage because he's gonna be like, we can come out aggressive too. And Sark, as we know, Sark's probably the best first or second drive play caller in the country.
It was a masterclass for Oklahoma State. Yeah. I mean, it was reverse passes for a touchdown. It was backdoor screens. Yep. It was Tavondre Sweat touchdowns.
I was going to say that was the best touchdown.
Like you're just watching the game. Like he is on fire right now. He's a wizard.
Yeah, he really is. You can tell like in that game. He was very much like, I'm being my bag. I'm not going to overthink things either. Like, I'm going to pull out the tricks at the right time because we've seen him pull them out at the wrong time. He pulled them out at the right time. The Tavondre Sweat thing was great. But
now, did he blow it too early? Did he show it too early?
Maybe, but I don't know, man. I think he knows that he can put up points on this Washington team.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Oregon team that we saw play Washington, we kind of knew, like, they weren't doing anything crazy. Like, we knew they were going to run wide receiver screens. We knew they were going to play the short game. And Washington kind of let them do that. Right, they know they're going to give them some give.
Bend don't break.
Right, and we've also, I think the thing that will be interesting to see with Pete Kwiatkowski, one, old program, right, former program. What does he do? Because we have seen this Washington offense stumble after that first Oregon win. They didn't look that great for a good 3 weeks, right? Well, I mean, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but they snuck out. With like I think Michael Penix might have lost the Heisman in that 3 weeks.
Well,
span.
that was why Oregon was so favored against Washington because after that game they crisscrossed and it was like Oregon was ascending and Washington was faltering.
So they beat Arizona State by 8. They beat Stanford by 9. A USC team again that was on the downturn by 10. They snuck by a beat down Utah by 7, and then they snuck out Oregon State by 2. Washington State by 3, and so again, then they beat Oregon by 3. But that's like you mentioned, that's why Oregon was seen as like the Vegas favorite, even though they lost that game. Because again, that's what I'm curious about. What Pete Kwiatkowski is like. What does he dial up? Because he knows that this offense, I don't want to be held in check's too strong of a word, but like hasn't been as flawless, I think, as maybe it's perceived or how they've looked against Oregon per se.
Mm-hmm. And Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle, was a second-team All-American, so he said, the BS just fuels me, and put 1/124. So he did the timestamp tweet again.
Exactly. And every time he does that, it's like a bat signal for himself.
Yeah.
What if it's literally as a Batman putting up the own signal? It's like, there I am, I'm needed.
Yeah, but it's gotten like progressively weaker, where it's like the first one was Iowa State saying they have a massive ego that needs to be checked. It's like, yes, timestamp.
Yes.
And then the second one was, we're going to block them like we've done the last 15 years. Time's up. Now it's like second-team All-American. Like, oh, this is bull. This is bull.
Why did Washington do this to me? But no, this is the one I'm very much excited for. I think the Sugar Bowl. I mean, Texas will have the home field, quote unquote, home field advantage because the Sugar Bowl is in New Orleans. Washington's going to fly in a lot of fans. I think it'll be a great environment. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it's going to lean heavily Texas, obviously. And I know Washington really wanted the Rose Bowl to get that last one for kind of as a member of the Pac-12. But regardless, this is the one I'm most excited for. I do think the other game will be good as well, but I think everybody's kind of circled this one as like the firework factory potentially.
I think so too. Who do you have? Who are you going with?
Man, this one's legitimately
it's tough.
like
it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be close.
Could I go first?
Go for it. Yes,
I'm gonna go Texas.
Okay.
You are.
I think Texas has this one. I think everyone was kind of preying on Washington's downfall a little bit with Oregon.
Sure.
I think now we've been thrown off the scent of Washington is faltering, but I am still saying they are not as strong of a team as they were when they first played Oregon. Mm-hmm. So I think Sark has a legacy game as head coach, and I think Texas wins.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go Washington.
I
think
Wait, you too?
I think
no. Oh, no.
Yeah,
all right, whatever. I'll stand on my table.
I think it comes down to this. I think it comes down to the fact that first half without Williams is going to be massive.
Yeah.
In a secondary that we already know can get beat.
Yes.
And I do think that Dylan Johnson, their 1,000-yard rusher, again, good player, but they don't need to lean on him, right? And I think that plays into the reason why I thought Texas would roll Tech and Oklahoma State is because we know how they need to play, and that plays right into Texas' hands. I don't think. Now, granted, they can get a pass rush with those two guys as well, and that could disrupt things, right? Interior pass rush is arguably more destructive than outside pass rush because there's no running from interior pass rush. So if Sweat and Murphy are able to get to Penix, then that changes the entire game plan. But I think those guys setting the tone in the run game is how that defense really gets going, and that changes games.
But also, Williams is not a starter, and the reason it was so devastating in the Big 12 is because Ryan Watts was already out. Ryan Watts will be back.
Sure.
Williams is not a starter, and it's only the first half.
I guess so. I'll say this. I think that their wide receivers are just too much in general. I would pencil this matchup for them even if they were, like, if Catalan was there, if Watts was there, if Williams was there. Like, I'd pencil, like, Romeo Duze and Jalen Polk. They're both 1,000-yard receivers. I think they're insane. Yeah. So that's my thing. I think it'll be like a 3-point game. Like, I really do think it's like a very, very close game.
Yes, I do too. I take Washington to cover. Yeah. I was just gonna say I just think that Michael Penix and just the individual playmakers that Washington has, I think, are just too good for this Texas defense to face. But
yeah,
who knows?
I will say this though, Quinn Ewers is taking a lot of flack this year, and he's answered not every question because, like, it's kind of insane standards that he had to live up to. But I think that even from his own fans at times, people are like, oh, Quinn's doing it again every time he throws a pick or whatever. You're in this position. I think, and you're in this position because of him, right? Chavondre Sweat could be having the season he has. If Quinn Ewers isn't making the throws, he played a perfect game against Oklahoma State, right?
Well, except that one he threw right
the one pick,
right into the linebacker. But yes, he played perfect, basically.
He more or less played perfect, and I think that this is a game that they're going to need the best game from him because I do think that Michael Penix is going to push that defense, and I do think they need Quinn Ewers at his Tuscaloosa, basically.
Yeah, I love proclaiming legacy games. That's kind of I'm addicted to it. So I'm going to say Sark legacy game, Quinn Ewers legacy game coming up.
There you go.
All right, we'll take it. All right, let's get into our other bowl matchups. We've got 5 more, starting with the Independence Bowl. Texas Tech playing Cal Saturday, December 16th at 8:15 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN. Texas Tech coming in as 3-point favorites. The over-under 58.5. This is the game of top-tier running backs.
Yeah.
I'd say. Taj Brooks and Jade Knott.
I'm very fascinated by this because, like, if Tech just wins this game, like, I don't even say convincingly, but just, like, I think that, well, one, I think they could win this convincingly.
I think they should
Yeah.
win this convincingly.
And all of a sudden, like, the past month is just, like, forgotten about. Because, like, obviously the Texas loss hurts. I'm not going to say that pain goes away.
Yeah, they're in the SEC now. Doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly. Well, yes, exactly. You look to the future and you're like, it's kind of like you're in a car crash and all of a sudden your car just, like, you're rolling over 12 times and you just land face up. And you're like,
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
that bad? You're like, I'm actually okay. And it's like, kind of, yeah, because they'd finished with what, 7 wins, right?
Yeah.
Be 7-6.
And so it's like, okay, one loss off last year. You played a national title caliber team in one of the games, and okay, cool. Like, it's your second year with your head coach, and you got a 5-star wide receiver coming in.
And people forget last year they were 4-5 before they ripped off that winning streak. They've done the same thing. November, Joey McGuire. We talk about it. They've done the same thing basically this year with one less loss if they win this game.
Like their losses, West Virginia, which turned out to be pretty good, right? Oregon just almost had a chance to play for a playoff. Wyoming turned out to be pretty good. At Wyoming, by the way.
Yeah.
The one bad loss is BYU. Right, that's
Yeah,
the one
that
that I could
one's
look
bad.
at and say like,
that's
a bad
no
loss.
excuses.
Right.
That's no
I can't make an
excuses.
excuse there. But Kansas State, and then of course you got embarrassingly drubbed by Texas, who was trying to prove a point to the commissioner that was in town. So that was kind of no fault of your own. But that one sucks. But again, that's the only bad loss on that schedule that you say why'd they lose that game is BYU.
Yeah, that Texas game was, remember Fast Times at Ridgemont High when they crashed the star football player's car?
Yes.
And then he goes completely berserk
Yes.
in the that was what Texas Tech
That's
was.
what happened with that game, yes. So I think they could convincingly win this game because, like Mallory mentioned, Cal's kind of got one trick, and it's Jade Knott,
That's it.
and Jake Spavital's gone. So, like,
Oh, right. Yeah.
he was our OC, and he's not there anymore. So it's gonna be like, okay, I don't know what game plan they toss up in a couple weeks.
Also, Tim DeRuyter and Marcel Yates were
yep.
defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach at Cal before. So
That's a good little, nugget
there's
right
some
there.
program ties. The one thing I do want to see from Texas Tech is I want to see how Baron Morton looks more healthy than he has been. Because to me, he was the future last year.
Yes.
And the present this year was a little shaky for me. And I think a lot of it was because he was injured. He wasn't throwing in practice. Now that you've got a bye week, basically, multiple weeks off, I think he needs a flex game to go into next year.
Do we know who's starting? Because I know Cal's played like 5 quarterbacks this year. I think is it Mendoza?
I have no clue.
Okay, because Sam Jackson, of course, got hurt in the UNT game. I forgot the guy that finished the UNT game. And then it's been this Mendoza guy who's played most of the year. So I don't know. I know Jackson was supposed to be their guy to start the year, or at the whole year. Fernando Mendoza, true freshman, by the way. Looks like it might be him. He's played the last game, so I'm assuming it's going to be him. Because he's the one that beat UCLA to get them bowl eligible. So I'm going to say give me Tech just because, like, I think, like, people can say bowl games don't matter, but I feel like a guy like Joey McGuire, bowl games are a lot.
For a campaigner, bowl games matter.
Yes. And because when they beat Ole Miss last year, it was like, oh, my God.
Wasn't
like,
it Mississippi State?
Was it
No,
Mississippi
it was
State?
Ole Miss.
It was
Ole
Ole
Miss,
Miss?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, they beat Ole Miss last year, and all of a sudden it was like this program's on the rise because they know how to ride hype.
I don't know if Cal will do that as much as an Ole
No,
Miss win.
I don't think so either.
No, exactly. No, it's more like business. It's like suiting up. It's like business taken care of, and that's it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. So we're all taking Tech.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tech.
Yeah, we got to keep track of this. All right, coming up next, the Frisco Bowl, only a couple miles up the road.
Yeah.
UTSA playing Marshall Tuesday, December 19th at 8 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN. UTSA coming in as 9.5-point favorites. The over-under is 54.5.
All right, Carter. So I will let you. There's two coaches' sound bites that you kind of want to hint on here.
Well, I've got a quick Marshall preview, and that is Marshall head coach Charles Huff on starting quarterback Cam Fancher
Oh my God, I saw this.
entering the portal. There isn't a lot of money for NIL, and the fans hate him. The kid has been miserable.
That's horrible.
So that's your Marshall
Gosh.
preview.
So they're miserable. I'm sorry, that's hilarious that the coach would just say that. Like, why would you say
The
that?
kids hate him. Like,
This is like,
But
what?
the fans hate him.
By the way, Marshall, Charles Love did not have a great time this year. Marshall scrapped to bowl eligibility. They started off 4-0. Then they lost at NC State, not a bad loss. At Georgia State, James Madison, not bad. Coastal, App, and then they went, I believe, they won 2 games in conference this year. So not great. And yeah, it's not a fun time. Their quarterback just transferred, and apparently the fans hated him. So apparently they have no money. So there's just everything's great right there right now.
The other one's going to be a discussion in coach PR.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes. So for those who don't know, yes, Jeff Traylor was a candidate for multiple head coaching jobs. Was a finalist for Houston, and he's been asked about that a lot.
So
understandably.
Yes. So he basically says they ask about the coaching carousel in Texas winding down and what that means. He says, I've had a great job. There's always speculation, right? I know you media people believe that everything that's out there is factual, but I've got news for you. He goes on to say most of that stuff is clickbait and speculation. There's always going to be speculation as long as there's a Texas job open, and they're going to always have my name in it. If I were getting the specifics of what is accurate and what is not accurate, we'd go down a rabbit hole that would just take forever, and I don't care to get into specifics. Yeah. And when I saw that, look, I know Jeff Traylor loves UTSA.
Yes.
I know he has done a lot of good for that program. I know he did sign a large contract with a large buyout because he likes that program. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, honestly, what he is supposed to say. Mm-hmm. But when I saw that originally, my question is, how can we just call everything on the internet here clickbait and speculation from the media when it's public knowledge that you interviewed for both jobs?
Right. I think for me, I think it's a no-win situation because, yes, I agree that there is no handbook to be like, here's how you answer this, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the best answers that I've seen to those type of questions, because he's not the first coach to have the fact that he interviewed leak out, right?
Yes.
I do think it was purposeful by whoever leaked it that he was the one that leaked out of the A&M, right? Yes. Of the A&M job, that his interview leaked out. Because as we know, they were obviously talking to Mark Stoops, and obviously that news did leak out, but the fact that his name just came out, right? It wasn't like he's interviewing for the job, and blah. It was like Jeff Traylor interviewed, and they're hiring Mark Stoops. And it was like, that's a weird back-to-back.
Well, you got to run it by Aggie Twitter first.
Right. You got to run it by Texags, and then you can. And his name didn't clear, so he got kicked out first. No. But
what if that's how they did every single hire coaching process?
I believe
leaked it.
A lot of their decisions.
They saw how the fans reacted on social media, and they were like, "Oh, never mind. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that." It would. I think it would.
How do we know that's not how the Mark Stoops thing went down? Anyway,
that's what I'm saying.
But anyway, so yes, I don't know how he answers that, but I have seen that just answered better, right? Mm-hmm. I think that what he tried to do is he tried to make it a us versus them, right? Yes. Kind of like keep that in-house, and this is us versus them. He might have told the players behind the closed doors, right? Like, hey, I talked to him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and by the way, Jeff Traylor is totally right for testing his availability on the coaching free market.
Sure.
This is not like a Jeff Traylor did anything wrong.
The reason why he can't, and some people may be at home listening saying, well, why doesn't he just say that he interviewed? It was like, here's the thing. It's a complicated dance that they have to do because he's still, whether or not he interviewed, he didn't get the job. And so he's still at UTSA. And so he has to go in tomorrow to so-and-so's house visit and say, come to UTSA, spend 4 years here, right? And so if he's in public saying, I interviewed for this job and I didn't get it, and he goes tomorrow and says, hey, I want you to come here. He's like, why would I go play for you? You're just trying to leave, right?
Yes.
And so there's a very delicate dance that he has to play. Now, what I think is the best way to answer, because that's not the first time he spoke on it, right? He had something similar. I think after the bowl game, I think he handled it, or not the bowl game, the senior day, I think he handled it better. He's like, let's talk about Frank Harris.
Yes.
Right? Like it's frustrating. Because, yes, you have to ask him about it because the news came out. But at that point, I think that's the way to handle it, saying just no comment. Let's talk about Frank Harris. Let's talk about these seniors, right? I think similarly, he could have done something similar, right? He talks about the coaching carousel. I think could have flipped it and said, my job here is to keep the coaches here and do my best to keep them here. If they look for other opportunities like Will Stein, throw it elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
Will Stein pursued another opportunity at Oregon, boom, 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 right? I think, honestly, he got sick and tired of it. And I think that I think that's an anger thing because, again, whether or not, the media is not fake news and all that stuff, but in his mind, the media did leak out that he interviewed for the A&M job. And he's the only one that leaked out that interviewed for the A&M job.
Yep.
So therefore, I think he's like, well, why the heck did my name leak out? Is it just because I get headlines?
It's unfair, but it's not fake.
Right.
It's
exactly.
not clickbait.
Right.
I mean, it's a little bit of clickbait, but it's not
It's a
clickbait.
little bit that he leaked out, right? It was true, but it was a little that the fact that his name leaked out, I think, was part of it. Oh, it'll get headlines if he leaks out, or like if let's say if it was somebody from the A&M brass saying, oh, we'll get good headlines if we say that we're talking to Jeff Traylor, right?
Because the other thing is, we talked about it yesterday with Trey Moore leaving now. Trey Moore was going to leave no matter if Jeff Traylor signed a lifetime contract at UTSA. He's the defensive player of the year. He's going to go get a bag somewhere for the Power 5. But it will be interesting to see what happens with the rest of the players now.
Yeah.
Because it just is public knowledge.
Sure. No, it is. And he's dealt with that before. He dealt with that when the tech job opened, right? We were keeping that one pretty closely. So again, it's something that he just has to deal with. And I think it's a culmination. I think it's like, I've answered this so many times. So with that being said, I do think UTSA rolls in this game because Jeff Traylor's that type of galvanizing figure. He has that siege mentality of like us versus them. And I think that Frank Harris is going to want to go out with a bang.
I was going to say,
like there's so many guys that are just going to go out with a bang with this, because this is going to be like, this is the last game of an era for UTSA, right? Whatever they go forward as under Jeff Traylor, it's different with without Frank Harris.
Mm-hmm.
But also UTSA's 0-4.
Yeah, that is true.
That's one thing. Yeah, that's one thing.
Interesting. It's so interesting.
I was almost shocked about when I saw it. I was like, wow, they haven't won a bowl game yet.
Yeah, we talked about it last year. We were like, oh, they're 0-3 in bowl games.
They played San Diego State, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so it'll be fascinating. I think Marshall is very vulnerable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I still think they win.
So I think this will be the one, and I think this is a unique situation in the fact that they didn't get to a conference championship. I think that's where I would attribute those losses to. They got the conference championship. It was kind of a hangover, right? Mm-hmm. The bowl game, I mean. So they won Conference USA twice. Boom. Now it's like, oh, they don't have a trophy.
Yeah.
They won a trophy. So I think this one will be the one that they get.
I agree. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the real entree. The CFP semifinal was just the appetizer. Let's get to the real entree here. The First Responder Bowl.
Let's go, baby.
The Fighting Schmales of Texas State taking on the Rice Owls Tuesday, December 26th at 4:30 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN. Texas State coming in as 4-point favorites. Ooh. It's going to be pointsy. Over-under set at 60.5.
Yes. All right. So, first of all, I must announce, if any Texas State fans are out there, I did get my tickets. I will be there.
Ishmael Johnson meet and greet outside the stadium.
That's not
happening. Can we get that started?
Nobody report on how I am. The state of myself.
Get that started? That's
no
hilarious.
One report on the state of myself before this bowl game, before or during this bowl game. Look, I'm very pumped for this game. From what I can tell, this is going to be a big crowd. I'm not saying sold out stadium or anything, but this is going to be a very good crowd. Texas State's allotment of lower level is already gone. Mm-hmm. So you have to go through the First Responders Bowl now, which is of course, through SMU. I don't know about Rice's yet, but I do think that.
Hey, Mike Bloomgren said Rice going to take over Dallas, and I'm like, don't make me show the Senior Bowl, Senior Day picture.
Please don't play that game. Now, yes, this will be a well-attended game for Rice because it's in state, but yeah, don't make me show the
Don't make me show that picture.
So I'm very excited for the atmosphere of this game, just because, like we mentioned, Texas State. I don't want to be the second bowl that ever picks them, because it's not going to be this game. The crowd, they've been waiting for so long for this one game, and they're going to get it. And next year, whenever they get another bowl, it's not going to be the same. But
that's why I think I'm taking Texas State in this.
I think I'm going to take Texas State as well for that reason, because as we know, AJ Padgett's going to get the start because JT Daniels announced that he is no longer playing football. Unfortunately, because of injury, it's not just like if a guy calls it quits, I like it to be. I don't want it to be for something that's out of his control. Mm-hmm.
Let me get my take off first, though. I think JT Daniels is going to be a hell of a college football coach.
100%. I was about to say, when that news
too.
came out that he was going into coaching, I was like, should we look for him on the Rice staff next year potentially?
Because he has always been one of the most cerebral quarterbacks. I mean, I wrote a whole story about how Mike Bloomgren sees him when he's a freshman in high school, and he's got NFL protection schemes he's able to run through. Yeah. But now he's also been on 4 different teams and seen 4 different ways of coaching and been able to pick up the best things from each staff.
I'll say this. He'll have, of all the teams he's been on, because of course he's been around a while, He has a lot of potential mentors. Mike Bloomgren, Neil Brown at West Virginia, Kirby Smart, or was he with Lane Kiffin at USC?
Yeah.
Or was it Clay Helton?
Clay Helton.
Maybe Clay Helton. Either one, regardless.
Yeah.
Two really good offensive minds. So if he wants to, he will have the red carpet on any of these staffs as a grad assistant right out the gate. So very excited for him. I would love for him to stay on Rice though, and kind of be part of like the Bloomgren tree a little bit. So AJ Padgett will get the start for them. As we know, Texas State defense stinks, or they give up points, but they can also make things happen turnover wise. So I think that kind of is a recipe for not disaster, but falls into Texas State's defense's hands a little bit. AJ Padgett instead of somebody like JT Daniels playing.
What's the status of Luke McCaffrey? Is he going to play?
I haven't heard anything that he's not going to play.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Does he have another year of eligibility?
I was just about this is his.
Let me look
Is
up.
he going to try and go pro? I mean, because same
the
question
only
with
thing
like
is
Taj Brooks. Like, is there any possibility that they sit
So
out?
Luke McCaffrey's a redshirt junior.
Okay.
So
He's got another year.
He does have another year. The thing
Because
with-
if he doesn't play, like
right,
I
the
give
thing with him,
Rice.
the only thing that I think that's keeping him is he's very slight. He's very slender, and so I think that'd be the only thing that like keeps him from this year pursuing the NFL. Taj Brooks, I think, regardless, if I had to put money on, I don't think he'd play in the bowl game. I don't think.
Yeah.
That's one of those go get your money type
especially
situations.
running backs. So Luke
Oh,
McCaffrey,
for
I don't
sure.
know. I feel like he might play in this game. I don't think he has a reason not to. We'll see. I don't know. He's also one that we have to watch out for maybe getting another transfer because now he's a receiver.
Yeah.
Now he's a receiver instead of a quarterback, so we can just like go. I don't know. I hope he doesn't, but like that's one to watch. With that being said, I think all matchups go to Texas State. I think the hype goes to Texas State. I love that this Rice staff saved their season and they get to stick around, and because I do think they're building something really cool. The fact that they were able to get bowl eligibility in the AAC in their first year is not a small feat. So very fascinated by this one. I will be there. Don't ask me what state I will be there in, but I'm gonna have fun.
I should be there too,
jeez.
covering the game a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll have a Schmel cam down in the press box.
Do not.
Schmale Camp for
not.
the Fighting Schmale.
That camera will break.
It'll like zoom in on you, just crack. Like,
It will not. Yeah. Yes.
like
exactly.
pull
Nope.
away.
Nope.
That's freaking hilarious.
Listen,
okay.
I've only been to 2 games since I started covering the team. Since
So
I graduated.
Schmale's
I've only
not gonna
covered
be-
two
he's
games.
gonna be there, but he's not gonna be there.
Yes, I've been to 2 games as a fan. Mallory was with one last year at Baylor.
Correct.
And then this year at Alamo Dome. One was with my mom, and then one of them was in the presence of my bosses. So I was not in a state that I will be
You've
in. at
been
this
good. You've been good. All right, let's keep it rolling here with the Texas Bowl. Texas A&M taking on number 20 Oklahoma State Wednesday, December 27th at 8 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN. Texas A&M coming in as 3.5-point favorites. The over/under 53.5.
All right, so this one's fascinating because Elijah Brown is going to finish out his
Elijah Robinson.
Jesus. Fran Brown is the head coach, I believe. Fran Brown is the head coach at Syracuse that Elijah Robinson is following. So he said he will finish out his interim deal at A&M, coach the bowl game. But I'm curious, like, everybody leaving.
Yeah.
What's happening?
And they're not
here?
going to Syracuse.
They're not
No,
going to Syracuse.
all his defensive linemen are leaving and they're not following
And
him.
Elko's also like getting guys fired. So it's like the offensive staff's like, yeah, you're out. So I was like, who's going to be coaching in this game? Because like Damian Craig's not coming back. Steve Adazio's not coming back. I'm trying to think. There's some others that aren't coming back because, of course, Mike Elko's making decisions, and they're not going to be coaching the game. So it's like I have no idea who is going to be coaching with like a team of like 3 guys.
Did you see that Elijah Robinson clip of in the post-game locker room speech
Yes.
that he gave where he's just everyone's crying. And
Yes.
he's like, I love y'all so much. The difference between his post-game speech and Jimbo Fisher's
Fisher's.
post-game
Oh my God.
speech
Yes.
is
We
night and
need
day.
a Jimbo Fisher impression right now of his post.
Well, the Jimbo Fisher one is basically like, all right, good win out there, guys. You know, special teams pump blocked early. Can't have that, guys. But we run the ball good. Wide receivers running good routes. Safeties, safeties we love a few deep passes over there.
And
Elijah Robinson was
I
like,
will die for every single one.
I
of them
will
right
die for y'all, man. I love y'all.
Yeah, and he's like, and you like wanted to run through. I wanted to hug him.
I
wanted to be
know.
like, I need to play for you, and I need to hug you right
So
now.
that post-game Texas Bowl locker room, as Elijah Robinson is leaving, if they win that game,
Yeah,
is going to be spiritual.
I'm
I
just
know.
curious to see who's gonna play. Just because, like, I think
It's going to be the opt-out bowl.
it's
Yeah,
definitely gonna be
literally.
Either that one or the Georgia game.
Yeah.
Everybody's opting out of that game for Georgia. But yeah, I'm very fascinated by this because I think Henderson will play at quarterback because whether or not he's still there, I think he has something to prove. Whether or not he's playing for his next starting job or a quarterback job somewhere, I think he does need a little bit more film on him because there is some intrigue, I think. If he goes and lights up the Texas Bowl, all of a sudden people are like, yeah, we got to get that guy in, right? Or Mike Elko's like, we got to keep that guy here, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he has a lot to play for. The offensive staff, I wouldn't – like, is Evan Stewart playing this game?
Well, I don't know what's going on with Evan Stewart because he was just cosplaying as a journalist last game, live tweeting the game, stepping on my territory. Like, dude, go play football. Don't do this.
Well, to be fair, he's also hurt. So he needed something to do because apparently he couldn't go with the team either. So there was that. So he's kind of like the untransferred transfer right now.
Yeah,
so like people
he's just not even with the team.
People just expect him to get in the transfer portal, even though there's really no indication that he's getting in except for like Twitter talk.
Is it fair to say the vibes at A&M are a little weird right now?
They're a little weird because they're transitioning because like they don't know.
They're not good. They're not bad. They're just odd.
But even with the transition, okay, so the Kentucky Mark Stoops things happens where TexAgs shuts down that. I'm not saying TexAgs, the Twitter.
right.
Texas A&M Twitter shuts that down basically. Then they get Mike Elko.
Yes.
Now everyone's transferring. Bobby Taylor tweets earlier, no way you could have told me 2 years ago Jimbo would be fired, coaches leave, Hasta class dips. How does that happen? Evan Stewart's just there but not there.
I'll say I think that Elijah Robinson leaving may indicate more of the vibes than the I don't think they're leaving because of Mike Elko, right? I think Robinson I'm wondering. The only thing I can wonder is I wonder how much Mike Elko really wanted to keep Elijah Robinson for like his staff as opposed to like keeping things intact. I think he knew he had to keep him, right? I do wonder how much because one they made the hire of Spencer pretty quickly, and so I'm wondering if he had him on tap initially. And then also Elijah Robinson's just going to be a DC at another Power 5 school.
Yep.
If I really wanted Elijah Robinson I just make him the DC and have him call plays.
They were like, you're going to be the highest paid position coach. Just make him the DC.
Right. So I wonder if Elko was like, yes, I'll do my due diligence to keep him here, but as far as like, if you get a DC job, that's fine, right? And so I'm wondering if I think him leaving is more indicative of why guys are leaving as opposed to like the overall vibes, if that makes sense. I think that Elko is doing it. I think a lot of the guys like Elko. Like we saw Bryce Anderson kind of squash somebody apparently hacked Bryce Anderson's Twitter account and put that he was transferring. He put on Instagram that I'm not. So I think, apparently somebody hacked it. So, so again, I don't think the overall vibes are bad. I think that Elijah Robinson leaving is like an unexpected wrench thrown in there. It was like, we didn't expect that. That's awkward. And so Walter Nolan, all these guys are jumping in.
Now, in terms of Oklahoma State, how are they in the Texas Bowl and not the Alamo Bowl, considering they just lost the Big 12 championship game?
I have no idea.
How is Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl?
Because Alamo Bowl
gets to pick?
Yeah, more or less. Like, you can pick. I don't think automatic bowl tie-ins are a thing since the playoffs started. Okay. I think conference tie-ins are the same, but like in the past, the Sun Belt champion went to the New Orleans Bowl, but this year is like Louisiana. And it's like just cuz.
Also, is this Alan Bowman's last game? Last college football game ever?
Does he have
is he entering the workforce?
There's no way he's got more eligibility.
I'm looking it up right now.
I would not be surprised.
He's a redshirt senior, so yes, theoretically.
There's no way, right?
There's no way. I'm not going to say he played under Kingsbury again because I mention it every time, but 2018, 19,
How
20,
old is he?
21, 22.
You're probably younger than he is.
Let me check.
23 per Wikipedia.
Okay, so
he's 23. Wait, when's his birthday?
Year.
Oh, he doesn't have it.
Yeah, it just says he's a 2000 baby. So.
Ooh, so
March 6, 2000. He is a couple months older than me.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he can call you kid.
Yeah. What's up, bud?
Kiddo.
You walk up with a tape recorder. He just tussles your hair. It's like, hey, kid. I do love that image because like you're probably like the same height as him.
I know.
But that would be if Alan Bowman comes back for another year. That would be, I think, universally be like, dude, really?
There's no way he can't. Like, there's no way. There's no eligibility left. Sorry, buddy.
I mean, I don't know. They're running out of quarterback. You see Gunnar Gundy's transferring. So
yeah,
Gunnar Gundy's probably need a quarterback. So.
Who is it? Garrett Rangel.
Garrett Rangel's still there. I think he's still there.
Is he going to be a starter?
He might be. He started. He played games this year.
All right then.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Are we all going with
I don't know because I don't know who's playing.
I was about to say, I'll go A&M just because I do think, like, I do imagine those guys want to give Robinson a good sending off.
I'm going to go Oklahoma State because I think
too.
Alan Bowman goes off in his final college
Alan
game.
Bowman
legacy game.
I think Ollie Gordon does too. Like
if he plays.
He might not play though.
Actually, no way.
Ollie Gordon's young.
I was about to say he's probably coming back.
He's young.
I think he's only a sophomore, so he might play.
All right. Anyways, let's keep it rolling here with the Fenway Bowl. Number 24 SMU taking on Boston College Thursday, December 28th.
Game of future.
10 a.m.
Wait, 10 a.m.
10 a.m. That's what it says. I'm not kidding.
Disgusting.
You can watch it on ESPN at 10 a.m. on December 28th. SMU coming in as 11-point favorites, over under 50.5. Future conference game, baby.
Yeah, future
ACC
rivalry game.
Woo!
Coming up.
Yeah, the vaunted Boston College SMU rivalry. Question to both of you who have definitely watched Boston College this year. Who's their head coach?
Don't know.
No idea.
Jeff Hafley. I just looked that up myself. Former DC at Ohio State.
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend I've paid attention to Boston College this year. The last time I did pay attention to Boston College, they almost lost to Texas State in 2020. So that's my opinion of the program.
Well, okay, a lot of the talk. Let's talk about how SMU doesn't get into the New Year's Six Bowl over Liberty. And I just say credit to the committee. They always will go off the record and who deserves it most on the field.
Yeah, totally.
Because Boo Corrigan
It
says
doesn't matter your schedule. If you beat everybody on it, it doesn't matter how you look.
Nope.
In those games, if you beat everybody on your schedule and go undefeated, they will reward.
I mean, Boo Corrigan, when talking about how Liberty made, he said, you look at Liberty.
Boo Corrigan.
Liberty just continued to win throughout the year, and I was like, you know what, Boo, that's totally right.
You know who else continued to win throughout the year?
Nope, don't know. Don't know what you're talking
Florida
about.
State.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I'm
Anyway.
so mad. Also, okay, completely off topic, but your point about the Ohio State quarterback situation back in 2015 or 2014, so accurate.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, a little bit different because I do think that, like,
No, sure, they looked better.
Braxton
yes,
Miller,
with
JT Barrett, and
Cardell Jones.
are different than
Sure, but they could have easily
same situation.
Yeah,
they could have said that
situation.
same thing.
But so basically, yes, the committee basically admitted that we take unbeaten records into account for some teams and then not for others.
Well, it was very much, if you're going to do the same logic of Alabama gets in over Florida State,
put
SMU gets in
Put
over
SMU over
put
Liberty.
SMU in the New Year's Six.
But they snip, snap.
Yeah. Basically, they realized they weren't paying it because this is what really happened. They hadn't watched an SMU game all year.
Nope.
Right? They probably saw the TCU game and they're like, they're losing by a lot. Don't have to worry about them anymore. And then they never watched an SMU game ever. And then
they saw they lost Oklahoma, and it's
exactly.
Can't beat it.
And then it came around. They're like, wait, they're in the conference championship? They're losing to Tulane. Who cares? It's like, they beat Tulane?
With their backup
We got to
quarterback?
put them in. Never mind. Liberty's ahead of them. Just keep Liberty ahead of them. That's basically what happened. We got too much to worry about with not putting an unbeaten Florida State in the title game. So, yeah. Look, SMU fans, we get it. And this will be a chance to just style.
So who's Liberty playing, though? That's my question. Who is it?
Oregon.
Oregon.
Oh, my God. They're going to get
Bo Nix send off. Bo Nix legacy game.
correct.
They might get
Bo Nix is
piled
going to
driven
go
by Oregon.
off.
I'll say
Sorry,
this.
Caden Salter.
SMU fans, I do wonder. Hit me up on Twitter if I'm legitimately asking this. Are you worried now that the playoff basically just said, we don't care about the ACC?
Yeah.
That.
Like SMU is literally paying to get in this conference to get a seat at the table, which I understand is a good move and it was a very necessary move because soon we're going to have the power nexus absolutely distance itself even more from the rest of the pack. But the playoff basically just said, the ACC sucks.
Well, I went to my girlfriend's Thanksgiving, and her uncle is an SMU grad, and he pulls me aside because he knows I work in college football, and he basically goes, hey, Carter, I'm really nervous because SMU has now gone to the ACC. What I think is going to happen is they're going to go to a Power 2 conference, and they're just going to be on the outside looking in again. And I looked at him and said, Clint, I don't know, man. Like, that would suck if it did happen.
He's like, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. You're probably right.
To be fair, though, we know the reason why Florida State was kept out was because of the quarterback situation and the injuries. It's not I guess a part of it is, the committee decided that, the SEC is a much tougher schedule. Alabama had a much tougher schedule than Florida State
That's what I was going to say.
We know that if Jordan Travis were playing and he was expected to play, they would be in.
But that doesn't happen to Alabama.
No. Here's what I was going to say. Well,
doesn't it, though?
Here's the thing.
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. I think it. Here's the thing. The reason why it doesn't happen to Alabama is because they're in the SEC.
Yeah.
If Florida State won that game against Georgia in the fashion that they did with their quarterback throwing for 50 yards, the committee's like, who cares? They won the SEC. That's
Good
my
point.
thing. And so that's my thing. I agree that, yes, it's because the quarterback threw for 50 yards or whatever, and they still won. And they looked ugly. To me, it didn't matter. It should say a lot about the defense that held a top 10 Louisville team in check.
Yes!
But they were so good. But I think if they do that against Georgia, if they do that against Bama, if they do it against Oregon or Washington, I think they're like, yeah, they're in.
Look, again, the playoff talk, like two things can be true. Florida State got screwed, but also I'm happy it happened because I want to see Alabama in the playoff over Florida State.
Yes.
I'll admit it. I like this playoff a lot
don't get me
more.
wrong. I'm excited for the game. Don't get me wrong. But as far as like I think Alex Kirshner in a piece for Slate said it perfectly. He's like, it was a travesty. I'm excited for these games. If your mentality is the best teams in the country, then they made the right decision. But it was also a travesty decision as well.
Yes, of course. And yeah, exactly. I totally forgot what point I was just going to make.
All this to say, I think that SMU's mad. I think they want to go out in the AAC with a bang. I think they're going to stomp Boston College. And leave no trace.
You're just going to throw any Power 5 team at us? It's just like, yeah.
Kevin Jennings' legacy game.
Listen, I'm very excited for Kevin Jennings. He didn't play. He started the game rocky, but he ended the game pretty well for them. So I'm excited for the future with Kevin Jennings.
Yeah, I'm taking SMU to cover.
Yeah, I'll take SMU to cover. Yes.
Are you still rattled by the?
Yeah,
the
I'm
point that
literally
you
like
forgot to make?
searching in my mind. I literally had
What you were gonna say?
I had such a profound point to make, and I
I
just
look
don't
over
know.
at you and I'm like SMU to roll, and you're just like,
What game are we talking about
what
again?
game
I'm
are we
actually
talking
so
about?
frozen
Where am
right
I
now.
right now? But anyways, that's it for our bowl breakdown. 7
Boom.
teams, 6 games.
Yeah.
Let's get it. I need to keep track of everybody that we picked because
We only had
we
one.
can go by.
We
can
only had
go
like one
through
differing
after.
now.
Which one? Oh,
The-
Texas and
The
Washington.
playoff.
Yeah,
Which
we
is still,
took-
I mean, that's the juicy one. So that's what I'm excited
correct.
for.
That's correct. Who are y'all taking in Michigan, Alabama?
I think Bama. I think I'm taking Bama.
So
I'm gonna go Bama. Another CFP without Connor Stallions. I just don't know if this is gonna happen.
If they can get
I
it
also
done.
remember the profound point I was gonna make. It is very funny. Again, I like that this is the playoff. I think it's gonna be great games. It is funny how every reason they give for what they did is just dumber and dumber and more egg on their face because there was a piece by Heather Dinich for ESPN that was basically the committee was going to pick Florida State, but then they watched the ACC championship game and how Florida State couldn't move the ball, and then that was the final straw that got him to pull them out. And it's like, dude, that was the third-string quarterback who wouldn't be playing in the playoff game, and that was you pulled him out because of their third-string quarterback who won't even play.
It'd be Rodemaker, wouldn't it be?
It would be Rodemaker, yeah. It wouldn't be Brock Glenn.
Anyway. So
would have been cooler if I thought of that 5 minutes ago.
that's
but
okay.
I'm still
It
gonna
was
say
still
it.
cool.
I think
It was still
Bama.
cool.
I'm going to take Bama because I think that Michigan, I do think that they may be the most complete team, in my opinion, but I don't think they've played up to that caliber. I don't think J.J. McCarthy, he's been fine, right?
But he hasn't. But JJ McCarthy
hasn't been
hasn't
tested.
needed to do anything either.
Well, but even in the games that he didn't look good against Penn State. He didn't really look good against. He made a couple throws against Ohio State, but and the problem is, I think me and you have talked about this, Mallory. When he puts up numbers against these bad teams, you're like, okay, what happens when he plays these two teams? And it's like,
That's a good
he's
point.
kind of fine. He's kind of okay. Now, it wouldn't shock me if Michigan just came out and ran the ball down Alabama's throat and all of a sudden got to Jalen Milroe and put him under pressure, things like that. It wouldn't shock me if they won, but I think Alabama, in my opinion, I've seen the highs of Alabama, and I know this is an Alabama team that needed a Hail Mary to beat Auburn. But I just feel, I don't know. I like the momentum with Alabama right now.
Michigan lost that game from the moment Alabama was announced, and they all audibly gasped and groaned.
That was a very funny video.
That was really
That was
funny.
a very funny video. Now, I think it was because they just thought they had a cakewalk. They were like,
Yeah.
Florida State.
No, that's
And then it was
exactly
like,
why they
"Aw."
did
It
it
was
because
like, Bama.
Florida State wouldn't be able to do anything offensively.
Oh, yeah.
against
Bama,
Michigan.
Sam's
Nothing.
going to show that video of Alabama getting announced and the entire room going, oh. And we got him by the balls, boys.
They're already thrown off, man.
Yeah.
Gosh dang it.
So who do you guys got?
Alabama.
Alabama-Texas
rematch.
I mean, I can definitely see that.
And
That'd be
that
fun.
would be terrifying.
That'd be very fun.
That would be scary. I think I'm going to go Michigan. I'll be the oddball out. I think I'm going to go Michigan.
In
They
Houston. That'd be fun.
That
Whether-
would be, that
Alabama
would be pretty
rematch
cool.
or Michigan. That'd be a fun one. Yeah. In the rafters of the press box that is in our.
I think it's more of just me hoping that Michigan rolls Alabama because I'm still mad about the Florida State thing. So
That's fair.
I just hope that they roll
But
them.
also,
Not gonna happen, but
big time rematch energy, too, because Texas plays Michigan next
Next year.
It's game
Yep.
2. So that could be another rematch
That
next
would
year.
rock. That would be so cool.
By the way, you were too young to remember this, but Texas versus Washington's rematch of the 2001 Holiday Bowl, the Major Applewhite legacy game. Chris Sims started the Big 12 title game.
I was 2 years old.
He almost came back. Oh, stop. Major Applewhite almost came back in that
Carter,
game.
were you born yet? Yeah, you were one.
I probably had some throw up on my bib, but I was
Anyway,
still watching.
Holiday Bowl. It was Major Applewhite led one of the best. I think it might still be the largest comeback in Holiday Bowl history, because I think they were down like 20, 30 something to 14 or something, and Major Applewhite ended up scoring 27 in the fourth quarter. So anyway, a little bit of a history buff for you guys right there.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So that'll do it for us. Again, we will not have a show next week. Excuse me, we'll not have a show next week. We'll be at the state. So please keep it tuned to TexasFootball.com for all your state needs, all your recruiting needs. We'll have some portal, coaching news, all that stuff. The other shows on the Republican Football Network should be going at their own pace, so keep an eye out for those. But as far as ROF, we'll be taking the week off. Like I said, TexasFootball.com/state as of Sunday. Sunday, we will launch that hub page, and we will have everything coming up on the upcoming state championships. And then the week after, signing day, we will have a special ROF episode, I think around this time, right, Mallory?
Yep, 2 p.m. Wednesday.
Boom. 2 p.m. Wednesday. Is that the 20th?
Not next Wednesday.
Not next
Wednesday after.
20th.
Yeah,
that is the 20th. So, yes, December 20th, we will be back on here. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. So please subscribe. Remember, promo code DCTF. There you go, homefieldapparel.com. If you want to support us, 15% off your first-time purchase. Mallory, what bowl is Rutgers playing in?
I don't know the bowl.
Wow.
But I know they're playing Miami. Beat Miami. Pinstripe Bowl. Beat Miami.
The Yankee Stadium Pinstripe Bowl. So, yes,
Let's
beat
go.
Miami. And Mike Elko, give us a call.